Good evening. I'm Courtney, and I work with Congressman Tom Suozzi. I'd like to welcome you to the Congressman's live telephone town hall conversation. For those of you who are wondering if you're connected, you are, and we'll be taking your questions live momentarily. In just a moment, I'll introduce Congressman Suozzi, and then we'll open it up for questions. If you'd like to ask a question, you can press *3. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, press *3. And after you press *3, you'll be put in line to speak with one of our staff members. They'll hop on, take down your name, where you are in the Congressman's district, and your question. And then we'll try to get to you as quickly as possible. The next time you hear your name, you'll be live to the entire telephone town hall and can ask your question directly to Congressman Suozzi. Again, that's *3 to ask Congressman Suozzi a question. We'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible this evening, so please press *3 now if you'd like to ask Congressman Suozzi a question. And now, please join me in welcoming Congressman Tom Suozzi. Congressman?
Hey, thank you so much, Courtney. Really appreciate it so much. And thanks, everybody, so much for joining this telephone town hall. I love these telephone town halls because we get so many people who actually participate. I've been doing town halls ever since I've been in public life, but certainly in Congress. I've done probably 100 of town halls by now. But the telephone town halls, which we started during COVID, always end up having thousands of people. Looking at this number now, there are 1,745 people on this call already, and there's going to be more as we move ahead, as they call around to all the different houses. Anyway, so I'm here to talk to you and to listen to you about what's going on in Washington, D.C. and around our district. And I want to remind everybody, as Courtney just did, that if you want to ask a question, you press *3 on your phone. You press *3. So everybody knows, I think by now, that I'm in a district that Donald Trump won by 19,000 votes. He's a Republican. I'm a Democrat. And for me to win by 11,000 votes, a bunch of people who voted for Donald Trump also voted for me. A lot of people who didn't vote for Donald Trump voted for me even more so. But as a result, I have a lot of different voices in my head all the time. I have people from all different backgrounds talking to me about what they're concerned about. And I've got some people from, my Democratic base mainly that are saying, listen, we're terrified. This is scary. This is the end of the world. We got to save democracy. This is awful what's going on. And then I've got other people who are Trump supporters that are saying, well, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. They got to change things. We need to shake things up. And I would say that most people are of the spirit, hey, can't you guys work together and actually solve some problems? Can't you actually focus on my life, on what I care about and what will make my life better? And one of the things that I've been talking about a lot lately, especially with a lot of my colleagues, is that if you ask the American people what are they concerned about the most, there are 5 things: the economy, immigration, taxes, crime, and health care. And when you ask those same people, what do you think the Democrats are focused on? They say choice, LGBT protections, health care, so there's a little crossover with that, saving democracy, and climate change. Now, those are all very important issues. But if you want to talk to the people, you've got to focus on what they're focused on, and that's the economy, immigration, taxes, crime, and health care. And if you want to focus on other things, well, you better win your election so you can focus on those issues. But you better talk to the people about what they're concerned about. So that's what I try to do all the time, is focus on the issues that I think that people are most concerned about. So I've got, these different voices and my different responsibilities to represent the people in my district. And I try to bring people together to work across party lines to actually get things done. I'm the chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus, 25 Democrats, 25 Republicans, working together to try and solve the problems that we face in our country, from border security to debt and deficit and permitting reform and government reform and the issues that I've talked about as being so important to the American people. And when I have to push back, I've got to push back. And when I disagree with what's going on, I will talk about that. The big, beautiful bill, which, we call the big, ugly bill. There were some good things in there. I like some things in there. There was oh, what happened? Oh, well, I don't know what happened. We just went on music hold for a second. But anyway, we're back again. And so there are things in that bill that I like there's some tax breaks for people that are middle-class people and people aspiring to the middle class. And I like the idea of spending more money on border security, but there were things in there that I just can't stand that I think are just broken, whether it's increasing the deficit by the largest it's ever been in our country's history, to kicking people off of their health care and Medicaid and making premiums go up and kicking people off of food assistance and giving an unnecessary tax cut to some of the wealthiest people in the country, something we don't need, they don't need right now. Anyway, so there's a lot of things I can talk about. I'll take your questions. I'll talk about anything you want. Let's, I think, get started with the questions. Remember, if you have a question, you press *3. *3. Okay, very good. Let's ask some questions, Courtney.
Well, thank you, Congressman. Again, just to echo you, if you'd like to ask a question, press *3. Again, that's *3 to ask a question. We're also streaming this live, and so our first question comes from our online listening audience, and we've got a question from Chad, who wants to know, what is the status of an immigration and border security deal? Congressman?
Well, this is like one of my number one issues. Immigration is very important to me. My father was born in Italy, came to the United States as a young boy, lived a great American success story. And for me, when I look at America, I look at it through the lens of immigration, the American dream, working hard to improve your family's life. It kills me that immigration has become such a negative issue. But people were just fed up with the people streaming over the border. So I've been working on a bipartisan basis with a guy from Texas. He's actually a Navy SEAL. His name is Morgan Luttrell. But I'm also working on in the Problem Solvers Caucus. I'm working out with the Democrats for Border Security. I'm working on a group that takes all the groups in the Democratic Party, from the far left to the more moderate people, and trying to find a better way forward for the Democrats. And my position is we've got to do three things. Number one, we have to secure the border. Now, the president has calmed things down dramatically at the border, but it's all by executive order, and it's not going to last. We need the Congress, Democrats and Republicans, to work together to actually pass laws to secure the border. So we need to secure the border. We need to fix the broken asylum system. Asylum, used to be a great thing. In the 1980s, when someone declared asylum, asked for asylum coming from the Soviet Union, we were like, great, wonderful, they defect, they come to America. Well, now it's being abused. The Democrats and Republicans have to stop fighting each other and have to focus on our common enemy, which are the cartels and the coyotes and the organized crime that are getting $6,000 or $8,000 or $10,000 a person to bring people to the southern border and to tell them how to break the rules and to apply for asylum when they're not going to be eligible. 85% of the asylum cases are currently denied. The problem is they take 6 or 8 or 10 years to adjudicate the cases because the system is so overwhelmed from people trying to abuse the system. So we need to fix the asylum system. And third, we need to legalize a bunch of people that have been here for, over 10 years, let's say, who haven't broken any other laws than the fact they don't have the proper documentation. But they're working, they're going to work 6 days a week, they're going to church on Sundays. Let's figure out a way to legalize a bunch of these folks. I mean, there's an awful story out there now. I may do a press conference on it next week about these people that were invited here to America from Honduras, literally over 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, and 25 years ago, more than that. And I had a guy call me up who's a citizen, but his brother's a TPS recipient from Honduras, and they're taking away his status in September. Now, this guy goes to work every day. He's got a pension coming from the supermarket. He's legal. He was invited here. He's going to get Social Security. He's been paying his taxes. I mean, the guy's got his own house, and they want to send him back to Honduras where he hasn't been for 25 or 26 years. So it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So we got to build a coalition of business, badges, and the Bible. Businesses that need these employees, badges that law enforcement doesn't want to deal with this at the local level because it ruins their ability to do community policing when people don't trust them anymore. They need the federal government to do their job, and the Bible. People that just don't want to see people get separated from their families and don't want to ruin people's lives. So the president said some hopeful stuff the other day. He said, we got these farm workers and hospitality workers. You got to consider his experience as a hotel owner and had all these resorts and stuff where he had a lot of undocumented people working for him. And he knows that as he said, these are very good people that may not have the proper documentation, and we have to use a lot of common sense here. Well, I agree with him. I actually sent a letter to the president. I've asked to meet with him. Let's make a deal. Let's give you what you need to secure the border permanently. Let's fix the broken asylum system. Let's treat people like human beings. So let's take another question. I'm just looking at the thing. There's now 6,256 people on this call, which is fantastic. That's why I love these telephone town halls. All right, let's take the next question.
Well, thank you, Congressman. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, press *3. Again, press *3. Carol, Joy, we're going to get to you momentarily, but right now, Congressman, we've got Sam from Nassau County on the line. Good evening, Sam. You're live with Congressman Suozzi.
Hello. My question is about health care. So, like Medicaid, because of the bill, now requires people to somehow check in with Medicaid to prove they still qualify. People with Medicaid are not getting this info, instead are losing their benefits. People at the nursing home I currently work at are losing their benefits, to which losing their beds. And I work at a rehabilitation nursing home. Some people aren't ready to lose that bed. And I've seen people that just were kicked out basically because they lost the benefits. And what is going to be done about that?
Well, Sam, thank you very much. I want you to do me a favor. Stay on the call after this and talk to my staff about where the nursing home is and try and give us some more details, because I want to get those specific examples like that. And, 2/3 of the people in nursing homes are on Medicaid. 10% of all the veterans in America are on Medicaid. They say they want to do work requirements. 93% of the people on Medicaid that can work are working. And the people that are not working are typically parents of kids that have, serious disabilities. So it's really just heartless that, to pay for a tax break for some of the wealthiest Americans that don't need it right now. The stock market has been booming for the past, 5 years. They don't need this money. And what are we doing to pay for it? We're cutting Medicaid for some of the neediest people in our country, cutting food benefits. So we'll work on case. We'll help anybody we can to make sure that they don't lose their Medicaid, to help them comply with this. And I want to get more information from you about, the specific case that you're talking about. And, people who need help to figure out how to comply with these new regulations and checking in, which I'm concerned is, it's hard enough for anybody to deal with government. We all know how hard it is. You call up and you got to, press 1 and then you're on hold. And, people in some of the most desperate circumstances on Medicaid are being asked to do this form filling out and do these things to try and comply with these new rules. It's really dangerous. And it's going to affect all of us, because we're going to see people's premiums go up because they're getting rid of the premiums for the Affordable Care Act. And as people get kicked off of Medicaid, they still go to the hospitals to get emergency room help, and that ends up costing the hospitals money, and then they have to raise their rates. It's just a very bad idea. We all know that the other party has been working for a decade to try and undo the Affordable Care Act. This is like a backdoor way to try and do that. So anybody who needs help can call my office, and maybe I'll talk to my staff about whether we can do something to try and publicize information as about what people need to do to comply and what we can do to help them. And maybe we'll make some there's now 8,600 people. 9,000 people are now on this call. All right, let's take the next question. Thank you, Sam. Everybody, try and tell me where you're from when you call me if possible.
So again, please, if you'd like to ask Congressman Suozzi a question, press *3. Alicia, Steve, Austin, Eric, we see you, and we're going to get to you momentarily. But Congressman Suozzi, we've got Carol on the line in Hicksville right now. Good evening, Carol. Carol, are you there?
Yes. Hi. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was been concerned. I mean, all of the other things that you've been talking about, surely, but I'm also thinking about the Voice of America, National Public Radio, all of those public stations across the country. I was wondering if you have any ideas or have been working toward solving this problem of the funding that's necessary for all these things to continue.
Yeah, I've got a call scheduled with some people from some PBS stations, and, you're right. I mean, the idea, you mentioned Voice of America also, just so people know, Voice of America is a government program all over the world where we get information out about, the things that we believe in America and the things that we think people should be focused on in places where they don't otherwise have any kind of free news and they don't have honest news. And we just try to talk about our values, about freedom and democracy and free markets and why that's better than the place that they're living. So the idea of getting rid of the Voice of America, I think, is a terrible idea. General Mattis used to say, for every dollar we don't spend on diplomacy, you better spend $2 on bullets. So that's just, Voice of America is very important. And PBS, PBS is more than just, Elmo and Sesame Street and Ken Burns and the documentaries and the concerts and things like that, which are all great. It's also some places in America, that's their only source of news. That's their only radio station. That's their only TV station in some rural parts of the country. And, it's just sad. And what can we do about it? Really can't do anything about it until we get a majority of people in the Congress that will vote to put it back. So, with all these different issues that we're fighting back on, I'll fight as hard as I can against the things I don't believe in, and I have been doing that since day one. But when it comes down to it, you got to, if you agree with the person who's fighting for the things you care about, you got to vote for them. You got to try and get more people like that to win. And if you win, then you can focus on the priorities you have. But that's the only way we're going to, we can rail, and I'll rail. We should not get rid of public broadcasting. We should not get rid of public radio. We should not get rid of the Voice of America. It's essential to our existence. But we can't do anything about it. There's three things you can do. One is legislation. So when you're in the minority, it's hard to get legislation done. Number two is the litigation. Well, we've got hundreds of lawsuits that are happening right now as we speak, and we're winning a lot of them, but we're losing a lot of important ones as well. And third is mobilization. You got to get people out. People have got to show up. You got to win elections. You got to focus on what's going on right in front of you, your local elections. So those are the only three things you can do, and that's what I'm working on doing. There's now 11,221 people on this call. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next one, Courtney.
All right, let's get right to it. We've got Eric in New Hyde Park on the line. Good evening, Eric. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Good evening, Tom. It's been a while since we spoke. I think the last time was just after we came back from Normandy.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I do have an issue, of course.
You got the white hair and the white mustache, right? You're the veteran.
Yeah, I used to have. Well, I've shaved off the white hair, but I still have the white beard.
Okay.
Okay, that's progress. Now I need to make other progress. I recently qualified after 60 years for a 10% disability from the VA. It seems they finally gave me credit for tinnitus, which I got because I was in an artillery outfit.
Oh, wow.
Now, I got a retroactive to my date of filing in 2024, which was great. I got my payout. My deposits are being made. However, that was about a month and a half ago, and I went over to the VA local over at the Nassau County Veteran Service Agency at Building Q, who got me into the system, and I went into the VA satellite office, and I asked if they would take my picture so I could get an ID card. Well, first visit, they said they couldn't get into the camera. It was locked.
Eric,
back in a week.
Let me ask you a favor.
Yeah.
Your case is very specific. We will help you. We'll help you figure this out. We do literally. My staff is fantastic. They're helping hundreds of people. We brought in $16 million to help people since I was reelected, and we're working on veterans cases all the time. Let us help you. We'll help you. Know Eddie Allman? Eddie Allman can help with this. We can get other people on our staff to help with this. We'll help you figure out whatever you got to do to get the benefits you deserve. That's a big focus of what my team does. So just stay on the line. We'll get we should have your information. You're in New Hyde Park, I think. But stay on the line, and we'll help you. We'll help you get this stuff done.
And we've got
there's 11,930 people on the call. I think he was in New Hyde Park. All right.
Yes, sir. And we've got his info, and so we will reach back out. So let's get right to our next question. We've got Joy in Douglastown on the line right now. Good evening, Joy.
It's Douglaston, not Douglastown. All right, go ahead. Joy?
Joy, are you there? So Joy's question, Congressman, is what are your current top priorities at the moment?
Number one is immigration, hands down. Got to make a deal. Democrats and Republicans got to work together, secure the border, fix the broken asylum system, treat people like human beings, get a bunch of people legalized that have been here for more than 10 years and have otherwise been following the rules, and pay a fine and get into the system, but secure the border. We got to do. We got to deport. I agree 100%. We have to deport the violent criminals. Okay, any reasonable person should agree with that, and we got to get the criminals out. But most of these folks are just like going to work every day, and like I said, going to church on Sunday. So let's try and help those folks. So immigration is number one. Number two is rebuild the middle class. I'm just going to introduce a bill tomorrow called the SHARE Act, which says if you've got a corporation with more than 500 employees, we'll give you a 3% corporate tax rate discount if you give 5% of your stock to your lowest 80% wage earners. I've got Republicans and Democrats on the bill, including the chairman of the subcommittee on tax on Ways and Means, as well as the ranking member, Democrat and Republican. And I want to rebuild the middle class in our country. I'm in favor of increasing the minimum wage. I'm in favor of promoting more. We have a lot of unions in New York. Most of the country hates the unions. We got to try and promote unions to try and promote the middle class. We have to. Everybody in America, whether you're a left-wing progressive or a right-wing conservative, should believe that in return for working hard, you should get a decent life. In return for working hard, you make enough money so you can afford to buy a house, educate your kids, pay for health insurance, and retire one day without being scared. That's what people care about. Hard work should result in a good life, and we have to get back to that in America. We've made a lot of money in our country over the past 40 years, but we haven't increased people's wages. So that's what I'm very focused on. Immigration, rebuilding the middle class, trying to get rid of some of this toxicity and promoting bipartisanship, like the Problem Solvers Caucus and all the other. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I just had 16 bipartisan groups meet with the Problem Solvers the other day and started to build a community of bipartisanship throughout the country. And also my constituent work, the stuff that I was just talking to Eric from New Hyde Park of that veterans issue. Let's help the veterans. Let's help people who are having their immigration issues. Let's help the people that are getting their mail stolen or their IRS checks stolen, or help people get their refunds from COVID. Help save the not-for-profits like a daycare center that wasn't getting their funding. Let's help people get their 9/11 victims compensation. Let's help people with their passport. Let's help people at the National Cemetery or the Veterans VA, or just a million. They told me a case the other day to help a tugboat operator get his license renewed. So there's so many different things we're working on all the time. So those are my big priorities: immigration, build the middle class, promote bipartisanship, and get rid of some of this hateful toxicity, and help my constituents bring money back to the district. Okay, let's take it. There's 12,000 people on the call. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's get to our next question. Again, Steve, Roger, Austin, we're going to get to you momentarily. We've got Alicia in Glen Cove on the line right now. Good evening, Alicia.
Okay, Glen Cove.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for everything that you do. I had three main questions, but I just want to piggyback on some of the things you said. First, in regards to immigration, I don't know if you know, but the chief of police from New York City was on Morning Joe this morning. And he, because there was an incident where an immigrant shot a New York City cop in Riverside Park. And, he spoke so eloquently about how we have immigrants who are here illegally. They're few and far between, but we definitely want to keep our immigrants. And I thought that what he said was powerful, and it's part of the problem why we're so divisive on the issue of immigration, because the Americans, people are not getting the facts. And I thought the chief of police from New York City couldn't have said it better. He was very clear in saying that we have illegal immigrants here, but they're few and far between. They're not the majority. And that's not what folks are seeing on the news. And I thought maybe just an idea to you could maybe do an interview together with him, because I think what he said is certainly something that you can understand as well, that we do have a process that's broken. There are folks that are here illegally and not following the process, but most Americans have a lot of...
I'm in violent agreement with you. The bottom line is that we got to treat people like human beings. And most people, like I told you, this guy, we invited him here to America from Honduras. He's been here for 20-something years, 25 years. He's here legally. They want to kick him out. because they want to take away his TPS status. Same thing with people from El Salvador and other countries. It doesn't make any sense. And most of the immigrants, especially in New York, we've got tons of immigrants. My district is full of immigrants that are here legally. I've got one of the largest percentages of Asians and South Asians in the country: Chinese, Korean, Indian, Pakistani. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And what were the other things you wanted to ask about? Oh, is she there?
To pay their fair share in taxes.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah, we want people to be here. Listen, if you've been here for 10 years and you haven't broken the law, other than you don't have the proper documentation, even the president is saying stuff like this now. He's getting pushback from some of his more absurd people on his team, but we have to lean into that. I mean, people say, "Oh, don't work with the president." We got to get something done. I know people from 30 years ago that were gathered on the street corners of Glen Cove. I started the first day worker shape-up center anywhere on the East Coast of the United States of America in 1994. And those same guys that were on the street corners 30 years ago, literally 30 years ago, 31 years ago, now have their own houses, they got their own businesses, and their kids went to school with my kids. Let's figure out how to legalize people that are contributing to our community, or want to pay their taxes or are paying their taxes, and move forward. And let's secure the border. I want to secure the border. Okay, let's go to the next one.
All right, Congressman, we've got Steve with a question about taxes on the line this evening. Steve, you're live with Congressman Suozzi.
Hi, Tom. I love the work that you're doing. The problem that I'm having is I don't understand the salt tax and how it affects me in my house. Also, the federal tax is going to be cut for us, for the small people that don't make enough money to support themselves.
Yeah. So where do you live, Steve?
Levittown.
Okay. And what are you a senior? Are you a senior citizen?
I am a senior citizen. I am retired.
Okay. So
and I am
you're
a
on
veteran.
Social Security, I guess. Right?
Yes.
You got Social Security. All right.
Yes.
So, I've been pushing to get the state and local tax deduction back. I got to give a quick explanation for the people on the call. Okay. America didn't have an income tax until 1913. And in 1913, they said, we're going to do a federal income tax. And the governors and the mayors and the local elected officials said, we don't want a federal income tax because we got to collect taxes at the local level because we do the cops and we do the schools and we pick up the garbage and we do the roads. We don't want you to collect the money from our people. Just do what you've been doing with, at those days, tariffs and customs. And they said, we don't want a federal income tax. And they said, no, we're going to do a federal income tax, but we're going to do a state and local tax deduction. Any money you pay in your property taxes, any money you pay in your state income taxes, you can deduct from your income so you don't get taxed on the taxes you've already paid. So that was in place for 100 years until 2017, and President Trump and the Republicans at the time said we're going to cap the state and local tax deduction at $10,000. Now, that was a real screwing to the people that I represent on Long Island and New York. It's very, very damaging. If you're in Levittown, you're probably paying $15,000 in property taxes alone, so you already beat the cap there. Then you got to pay income taxes on top of that. So I've been pushing to get the state and local tax deduction restored. I got it passed as a bill 3 times through the House, once for a complete repeal of the cap, twice for the complete repeal of the cap, and the third time I got the cap lifted to $80,000. But we couldn't get it through the Senate. Well, this time, a bunch of Republicans, and I praise them for this, said we're not voting for this bill unless you get us the state and local tax deduction back. So it was a big fight. They had like 5 votes that were holding out, and they finally got a deal. And the deal is not exactly what I wanted, but it's better than it was before, and that is that the cap was raised to $40,000. It's only temporary. It's going to go away in 5 years, and it's going to go back down to $10,000 again. But it'll be in place for 5 years that you can deduct, if you itemize your deductions, your property taxes, your state income taxes, and any other itemized deductions you have, like charitable deductions or anything else like that. So that's important to homeowners that have to pay these big property taxes on Long Island. Secondly, if you're a senior, the president, and they said they're going to get rid of taxes on Social Security. They didn't exactly do that, but they increased a senior exemption to $6,000. It was, I think, $3,000 before. Now it's $6,000. but it's only up to income of $75,000, and then it starts phasing out at $75,000, up to like $150,000. So if we can get you more details, if you need more details, either just call the office or stay on the line, and we'll call you back and try and help you figure out any other details. But listen, there were some good things in this bill, but there were a lot of really bad things. This massive deficit is, we've been hearing the Republicans talk about deficits for years. They just did the biggest deficit in the history of the country, the biggest ever. And that causes interest rates to stay high, which makes it harder to buy a house. That's going to cause things to cause inflation. That's bad to have this massive deficit. And cutting this health care for some of the poorest people and the most needy people and food benefits, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Well, again, if you'd like to ask Congressman Suozzi a question, press *3. Again, press *3. You've got almost 13,000 constituents joining us this evening, Congressman. So let's get to Roger in Manhasset. Good evening, Roger.
Hello, Tom. You're doing a terrific job. I am great with the 5 areas that you picked out, but I'm a little concerned with the fact that middle class is becoming even out of range for people who are not even in the middle class. In education, which is my field, we're looking at people who no longer can have their lunch paid for, don't have an after-school program, can't get a student loan, and we don't know what's going on with the Department of Education and whether those programs are going to be shifted to another department. And it's a mess right now.
Education is, as you know, Roger, is one of the most important things in anybody's life. And we have got to do a better job, and we need the federal government to support education. I mean, it's as simple as that. Any money you cut from the Department of Education that cuts money going back to the states and to the local school districts will result in our taxes going up in New York, and we can't afford our taxes to go up in New York. Everybody's moving away because our taxes are too high already. We need kids to have basic educations. We need to start working on, 60% of Americans do not graduate from college. And we've been saying for decades, the more you learn, the more you earn. Well, we've got to start focusing on people who don't go to college, and how do we get more apprenticeship programs and vocational programs for people? We need the federal government to support K-12 education. We need them to support colleges. We need them to support apprenticeship programs. We need to support those kids that you're talking about who could lose their lunch programs, God forbid. That's awful. That would be just terrible. You can't possibly learn anything if you're hungry, and you can't blame kids for being hungry because they're not getting help from home. You can't blame children for anything. It's not their fault. And we got to look out for our kids. And we got to make sure that we have the programs that we need. And the bottom line is, like everything else, we see these awful things happening that are very concerning to me, and I think are probably concerning to most of the 12,795 people on this call. And if you want to fix the issues that you don't see being addressed, you got to win. You got to win the elections. And people are discouraged all the time. You got the far left of America is like 8%. Far left are young and secular and ashamed of America's history. Then you got the far right is like 8% of America. And they're like anti-this, anti-that, anti-immigrant, anti-environment, anti-people. I mean, it's just awful. Then you have your traditional progressives and your traditional conservatives. But the biggest group in America are like 51% of the people, the politically disenchanted and the politically disengaged. They say the whole system stinks. The whole thing doesn't work. Nothing's going to get fixed. You got to get involved and participate in elections. That's the only way we can fix things. So you care about education. I care about education. We need people involved in the process to save our education system, because the only way to move ahead in this country is to learn something. And that could be going to college, or it could become learning to become an electrician or a plumber or a carpenter or other important jobs that we need skilled people in our country. So thanks for being devoted to education, Roger. We appreciate you. All right, let's take the next one, Courtney.
All right, we've got Lorraine in Levittown on the line. Good evening, Lorraine. You're live with Congressman Suozzi. Lorraine, are you there? Lorraine?
Yes.
Hi, Lorraine.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. I asked you the question before about the QMB program, if that's with Trump's cuts, if that's going to be affected.
For the qualified Medicare beneficiaries?
Yes.
I got to check with my team about that. Let us talk directly with you, Lorraine, and try and work on your particular case. We got to make sure that you're going to be okay. My team will work with you to try to figure out exactly what's going on and how it affects you. Where do you live, Lorraine?
Farmingdale.
Where do you live?
Farmingdale.
Oh, Farmingdale. Okay, good. That's a great town. I'm friendly with your mayor there. Okay, we'll try and help you, Lorraine. Are you a senior citizen?
Yes, I'm a
Lorraine?
senior. Yes, I'm a senior citizen.
We'll try and help you. Okay. My staff will call you right after this and get the details from you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Lorraine.
All right, Congressman, let's get to our next question from Sherry in Glen Cove. Good evening, Sherry.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Tom. Thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you, Sherry.
So I want to talk about the housing crisis on Long Island. I mean, I've been on my job for 37 years. Rents are like out of control. If you're lucky, you can get apartments, a one-bedroom for $2,500. And then when you talk about affordable housing, we're talking over $3,000.
It's crazy.
And then
I
we
don't know
wonder why people are trying to move out of Long Island. I mean, you love it here, but in New York.
No, it's a problem. It's a problem throughout the whole country, not just Long Island. We got a major housing problem throughout the country. We got a major affordability problem, and we got to get back to, as I said before, the basic. In return for working hard, you make enough money so you can afford to have a house. You can afford to have health insurance. You can afford to educate your kids. You can afford to retire without being scared. And there's too many people in your situation that are working hard, they're doing their best, and they just can't make ends meet. And we got to get back to the basics on trying to raise people's wages. And with housing, we got to build more housing. We just got to keep on building more and more housing. Now, we can't build on Long Island, for example, the same housing that we did, more single-family houses. We don't have a bunch of land like that. We got to go up in our downtowns and make it more interesting for young people that they want to live there. But by having more supply, you can have lower rents, but the key is to have more supply. I mean, there's a big thing that I'm looking into now about this whole thing about all these companies that are buying up all the houses, which are inflating the prices, and then they buy them up and then they try and rent them out for the exorbitant rents that you're talking about. So this is a national problem. I just did a press conference the other day with a Republican from Staten Island, and they're talking about there's a thing called a conservancy for the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Well, and they're talking about selling it back to the private sector instead of having the government run it, and it could generate $250 billion. Well, I'm saying let's use that money and dedicate that money directly towards building more housing throughout the country with union labor and make it affordable housing. And we just got to build more housing. We got to get through the red tape. We got to build more housing. We got to try and find more affordable rents for people, because you're not the only one just struggling to get by. And we're losing our middle class, and we're losing the people who are aspiring to the middle class, and we don't want people to give up. And a lot of it has to do with just making sure people have a decent wage. Like I said before, we got to raise the minimum wage, which will bring up everybody's wages. America needs a raise. We got to do this Share Act so more people get stock. We got to do more organizing of unions. And we got to build more housing. All right, let's go to the next one, Courtney.
All right. Again, if you'd like to ask Congressman Suozzi a question, press *3. Again, press *3. We've got almost 13,000 constituents joining us right now. So let's get to Austin and Bethpage. Good evening, Austin.
Hello. Good evening.
How you doing,
so my
Austin?
question, I'm doing well, Tom. Yourself?
Good, thanks.
Sure. So my big concern, my wife is first generation. Her parents came here legally, But we're hearing all these stories about ICE agents using racial profiling, grabbing people who are citizens, taking them out of the country, and we're scared. I want to know what you're looking into to keep these people, these bad actors in ICE, constrained and making sure what they do is moral and legal, as opposed to the shoot from the hip thing they've got going on right now.
Well, we've got to tell more of these stories, Austin. Thanks for bringing that up. You know, you talk about the ICE profiling and people getting picked up that aren't even supposed to be the target of who's getting picked up. And I dealt with this firsthand when I was county executive in Nassau County, and I've heard so many stories since I've been in Congress as well. And the last thing you want is for people not to trust the police, because the concept of community policing is that people trust the cops and the cops know who's who in the community. And so when there's a crime that takes place, they can go talk to people in the community, and people will talk to them and say, listen, I can give you this information about this is what's going on in the neighborhood, and this guy just came out of jail, or this guy's having a drug problem, or this is going on. You know, but if the people don't trust the cops don't get the information. That's what community policing is based upon. So if you're an undocumented guy, or even if you're, let's say you're Latino, okay, and this profiling is taking place like you're talking about, and then people don't trust the cops. Say you're walking around with a bunch of cash in your pocket, you get robbed. You can't even report the crime to the cops because you're afraid of going to the cops. So now, where do you go for protection? How do you get protection if you can't get protection from the cops? You get it from the gangs. And that's what causes the whole underground community. It's like the mafia in the old days. You know, give us some money, protection money, and we won't break your windows. You know, we got to solve this problem at the national level after 40 years of not doing it. 40 years, and we have to secure the border. And I'm all for getting rid of people that have committed violent crimes and kicking them out, but we don't want to see all these innocent families getting caught up in this. So let's secure the border, fix the broken asylum system, and let's treat people like human beings. And if you've been here for 10 years or more, and you haven't otherwise broken any laws, then let's figure out a way. We don't even have to give people citizenship. Just give them the right to work and pay their taxes and travel and behave like a normal human being and live a decent life. Treat them like human beings. But this idea that everybody's going terror, I bet you everybody on this call, even the people on this call that are anti-immigrant completely, know people that go to work every day. We have this guy up in Port Washington that I got very involved in the case. The guy, everybody in the community knows him. He's been there for 20 years. He runs the bagel shop. And he got picked up. He wasn't even the target. He hasn't committed any crimes except for the fact that he doesn't have the proper documentation. He got picked up, and now they want to deport the guy. I got people sending me pictures of him dressed up as Santa Claus and with their kids, or dressed up as the Easter Bunny. He's well known in the community. The kids miss him. The kids are like protesting. It's like, we don't want these folks all kicked out of this country. Not only would it be bad for our economy, not only would it be bad for local law enforcement the way it is right now, but it's not human. It's not nice. Let's treat people well. So we're going to push back on, when they break the rules. The key is we got to have we have to highlight the sympathetic cases that are out there. This Honduras situation is just one example, but I may do a press conference on it next week. You got these people who've been here for 20-something years, and they've been paying their taxes. We invited them here. They're here legally, and now they want to kick them out after 20-something years. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's go to the next one.
All right, Judith Marcy, we're getting to you as quickly. We're good, Congressman. We've got Toria in Bayville on the line with our next question. Good evening, Toria. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Yeah, hi, Congressman Suozzi. Again, thank you for everything you do, and I just wanted to piggyback on what you're saying about the fair share and the middle class, and two things that I think could be really helpful would be if somehow the minimum wage could be tied into the consumer price index and cost of living adjustments. And I'm also appalled at the interest rates that credit card companies can charge. I'm hearing way too many stories of people who are just, they've had no choice but to put necessities onto their credit card, and then they're stuck with these interest rates and they can't get out of the hole. And I tried to look into it to see why the maximum is so high, and what I came across was that there's really no legislation that limits the interest rate on the credit cards. There's other things in the consumer protection laws, but nothing for that. And I could go on and on with a whole bunch of other things, but you don't have the time. And especially as far as just another thing on the immigrants, I'm appalled at what we're doing to children with all of this. And
we have to look out for the kids. You're right. What was the first thing you said, Toria, before the credit card thing? You said something else was interesting. Oh, minimum wage. Yeah. So the minimum wage in America.
But tying the minimum wage into the consumer price index and something equivalent to the cost of living adjustments. From what I understand, if it kept pace with inflation, it would be somewhere in the high 20s.
Yeah. The right now in America, 20 states still have the federal minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour. So put that in perspective. If you make $10 an hour and you work 40 hours a week, and you work 50 weeks a year with 2 weeks vacation, that's only $20,000 a year. $15 minimum wage, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's $30,000 a year. And so on Long Island, we know that the minimum wage is more like $15 an hour. But, on $30,000 a year, you're not going to buy a house, educate your kids, pay for health insurance, and retire one day without being scared. But we got husbands and wives, both parents working all the time, which is causing other challenges for families. We have these... people talk about how, the stock market's doing great, and, if you look at these objective metrics regarding, home ownership and regarding life expectancy, that things are seeming so great. But you know what? People are struggling. So many people are working hard, and they can't get ahead, or they have a husband and wife both work, and they can't make ends meet. They can't pay their rent. They can't go on vacation. They get in a flat tire. They can't afford to get their car fixed. People living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people are struggling. And that's why people are pissed off and they're unhappy. And they want my party to start talking more about the things that they care about, like the cost of living. This deficit that they're building in this big, beautiful bill is going to keep interest rates high. We need interest rates to go back down. So we've really got a real big, big challenge. So I appreciate your suggestion, and I know that you were concerned not only about the minimum wage but about the credit card rates. I really haven't looked at that carefully, to tell you the truth, but it's a very real issue. I mean, I've always made a point of paying my bills each month so I didn't get gouged with the interest rates. But I've heard crazy stories about it. We have to see what we can do, because it's just not fair. People that are struggling, and they put stuff on credit cards just to get by, and then you jam them with what would be called a usurious interest rate, which is, a sin, quite frankly. So we gotta look out for people, and we gotta, like you said, treat people like human beings. It's unfair what we're doing to a lot of these folks. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Congressman Suozzi, we've got Judith in Plainview on the line. Good evening, Judith. You're live with Congressman Tom Suozzi.
Judith,
are you there? Judith? So Judith's question is, the New York requirements for the new bill, she has a son that has health issues and is disabled, so how is this going to affect him? He may have to miss work sometimes and get penalized.
Well, if he's disabled, he's exempt from the work requirements. The work requirements, they say, are for people that are able-bodied, but sometimes you got people that are able-bodied that can't go to work because they're taking care of somebody who's disabled. So let's get her name and number and call her and see what we can do to help her and her son to deal with this. But the bottom line is, the big ugly bill, the big beautiful bill, three big things about it that caused me to vote against it. Number one, they're giving a tax break to some of the wealthiest people that really don't need it right now. I'm not against people making money. I love rich people. It means they're successful. I'm happy for them, but they don't need a tax cut of 2.6% right now if you're making $500,000 a year or $1 million or $10 million or whatever it is. You don't need a tax cut right now. And number two, we shouldn't be taking it out on disabled people or low-income people or kids' lunches or, hurting some of the most needy people in our country in the process. And number three, it's creating the biggest deficit in the history of our country. What happened to let's be fiscally responsible? That's what causes interest rates to go up. That's what causes inflation. It's totally irresponsible. In the Problem Solvers Caucus, that's one of our working groups. We're going to come up with some frameworks by September and legislation by October. Let's set up a fiscal commission. Let's figure out how we can. There's only two things you can do about a deficit. You can either raise revenues or you can cut expenses. Well, let's do both. Let's raise revenues and let's cut expenses. Let's do this thing to negotiate drug prices, okay? We keep on hearing about it. With the Biden administration, the Democrats did it for 10 drugs, I think, or 25 drugs last time around. Trump is saying he wants to do it. Well, let's do it for real. Medicare and Medicaid are the largest purchasers of prescription drugs in the world. In return for our volume, we'll buy the drugs from you if you give us a discount because we want cheaper prices. We could save tens and hundreds of billions of dollars. So let's none of this my way or the highway like Doge when Elon Musk was doing that stuff. He came in and says, we're going to cut $2 trillion. And he said, we're going to cut $1 trillion. Oh, no, we're going to cut $150 billion. And they cut $150 billion, but they're going to end up having to pay it all in lawsuits and to make up for all the mistakes they made because they were so irresponsible the way they did it. Why would you cut the guys that oversee the nuclear stockpile? And they said, we made a mistake. We got to bring those guys back. But we lost their email addresses because they're not in the government email system anymore, and we can't find them. Let's cut the people that oversee the measles outbreak. We got to bring those guys back. Let's cut the people that are overseeing tuberculosis outbreak. Wait, it just doesn't make any sense. So let's get Democrats and Republicans to work. Every problem we face in our country is complicated, and you cannot solve complicated problems unless you get people of goodwill, even if they disagree with each other, to sit down across from each other and try to find common ground. That's what I try to do on a regular basis, to try and get people to work together to address the issues that people face in their lives, like the economy and affordability, like immigration, like taxes, like crime, like healthcare, like the Roger pointed out, education. Let's work together and make things better for people. Because that's what people are saying. They're saying, we're sick of you guys fighting with each other all the time. What about me? What are you doing about my life? Help my life. That's why you're elected, is to help make my life better. It's not for these fights. It's to try and fix things and make people's lives better. Okay, I don't know if we're running out of time, but maybe one more question.
Well, Congressman, unfortunately, we've kind of come to the end of our hour. We heard from a lot of folks this evening. And before I turn it back over to you for some brief closing remarks, I do want to remind all the constituents still on the line that if we were not able to get to your question or comment this evening, please stay on the phone. And at the end of the call, you can leave a voicemail. Please leave your name, email address, and your message for the Congressman. And now I'll turn it back over to Congressman Tom Suozzi. Congressman?
Okay, Courtney, let's make sure we call the people back that leave questions for us. I want to make sure we do that. We'll assign different people on the team to call people. I really want to reach out to the people that leave messages for us. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. There were over 12,000 people on this call, almost 13,000 people on this call tonight. I love our country. I love America. I love what it's done for me and for my family. I believe in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the founders, and I believe that there's so many more good things about our country than bad things. And I believe in I've been in politics off and on for years. I was trained as a lawyer to CPA. I was the mayor of Glen Cove for 8 years. I was county executive for 8 years. I ended up losing a race. I was out in the private sector. I came back. I was in Congress for 6 years. I ran for governor twice, got my butt kicked 2 times. But I came back. I took George Santos's place. I don't know if everybody knows that story, but I came back. And it's a great honor for me to be a member of the United States Congress. It's a truly great honor. And I just want to try and solve problems and help people and try and make people's lives better. And I think that people are just sick and tired of the fighting. They're sick and tired of the yelling and screaming. And there are people that are very scared of what's happening in this administration. And I'm scared sometimes too. But at the same time, I've got great faith in the people and our system. And that, the good will triumph in the end. But we've got to work together. We've got to try and it's not easy sometimes. I mean, the natural inclination of every human being is, you punch me, I'm going to punch you back. That's the natural human instinct. Punch, counter punch, punch, counter punch. But if we keep it up this way, an eye for an eye, and we're all going to end up blind. So we got to try and rise above it and start treating people with respect. And even if we don't have to love each other, but let's stop holding each other in contempt. And let's figure out how can we find the common ground necessary. I've been doing that my whole career in politics. I've had plenty of people to fight with me for decades, but I always end up finding somebody who wants to do the right thing and try to find common ground to move ahead. And I've had the great fortune of being in public life, and I've achieved my dreams. I've built buildings, I've cleaned up pollution, I've helped people in some of their most desperate times of their life. I've gone after the bad guys. I've helped the good guys. I've had a great opportunity to make things better for people, and I'm just very grateful for that opportunity. But that's what I want to keep on doing, and I'm going to keep on trying my best to get that done. And I appreciate the help of the people that have helped me, and let's keep on working together to try and make things better for people. And let's remember, the economy, immigration, taxes, crime, healthcare. That's what people want us talking about. And throw in education there like Roger brought up. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great night, and I appreciate you coming on.